Theory. What if Rue has Alastor's soul, not Lilith's? We know that sooner or later Rue will become an antagonist. What if she made a deal with him while he was alive, endowing him with those abilities that we see he has? Since Alastor doesn't want people to know about his leash, he could use voodoo as a cover, symbols, and everything else. And since Rue was the one who gifted these abilities, what if Alastor was strong enough to fight people like Adam and even Vox? However, he could disobey Rue a couple of times, with Vox, which led to his feat, and again with Adam. Think about it. Lilith was in heaven, so Rue, a powerful something in hell, could give him this while she continued to get souls, and that's why Alastor makes so many deals, gaining power for him and her, his master. But if he disobeys, she takes away this power again, as he loses to Vox and Adam. So, Alastor, we know him. He is one of, if not the most powerful ruler in the Pride Ring, and no one knows how he got his powers. All we know is that his powers are strong. So what's the deal? Well, to figure this out, first we need to know what he looks like. A man with deer-like features, similar to hooves and sometimes horns, who was once seen eating a deer, and is a good friend of the Cannibal City ruler. There is something else that has most of the features I described, a Wendigo. If you don't know, a Wendigo is a harmful spirit that can possess you, and if so, you will have a strong desire to kill and eat other people. He also somewhat resembles a humanoid deer. Secondly, let's look at Alastor's powers and how he uses them. So, when he transforms into his demonic form, first shown in the episode Egghead, he resembles some kind of deer monster. And every time he transforms, we can hear the screech of a Wendigo in the background. Also, I think he always has some kind of self-defense power, as shown in The Show Must Go On. When he almost dies, his shadow takes him. And when he transforms in Dad Beat Dad, we hear him say, "I'll eat every one of you," which, in my opinion, seems a bit cannibalistic. So how are these things related? Well, I think Alastor sold his soul to a Wendigo for power. This would explain a lot of what I said, as well as some others. For example, why his shadow can act independently, as shown in The Show Must Go On, when he fights Adam, and when his role plays in the song Finale. This also explains what Husk told him in Dad Beat Dad, big talk for someone who's also on a leash, and what he sang in the finale, "I crave freedom like never before." The restrictions of my deal undoubtedly have a backdoor. Another proof that his soul belongs to something is the fact that when he uses his powers at a stronger level, for example, when he transforms, his eyes become black, and the iris becomes bright red. And once, seen in Pilot, Alastor's shadow can be seen with free eyes. And as we can see from the example of other demons, if someone owns your soul, your former ones turn completely black, except for the iris and pupils. And if you have a soul, your eyes turn red. I think that's all. If someone finds something that I misunderstood, feel free to yell at me about it in the comments. And remember, this is just a theory, a film theory. Goodbye. Brief summary. As some signs hint, Alastor made a deal with a Wendigo so he can be extremely powerful. The theory about who owns Alastor's soul is quite intriguing. It's clear that overlords can own their own souls, as seen with Husk's story. There are at least 2 mentions that Alastor's soul belongs to someone else. Husk mentions it in episode 5, big talk for someone who's also on a leash, and Alastor himself sings about it in episode 8. I crave freedom like never before. The constraints of my deal, surely there's a backdoor. So, who does his soul belong to? Currently, I'm not aware of everything outside the series, and I haven't seen Hell of a Boss, but I believe there's evidence within the series right now about who owns Alastor's soul. It's clear it's not Vox. Otherwise, they would just use their power over him for their own benefit, and Alastor clearly doesn't fear them in the slightest. Moreover, this lack of fear is why I dismiss Lucifer as an option. If Lucifer owned Alastor's soul, I doubt he would behave the way he does with Lucifer. However, I think there's an overlord who is almost unexplored in S1 and who fits perfectly. Zestial. When we first meet Zestial in EP3, we see Alastor tense up, which is rare for him, unless I missed another example. Clearly, Zestial makes Alastor nervous. Additionally, it might seem silly, but I find their manner of speaking compatible. Alastor uses a formal transatlantic manner, while Zestial has a mostly Shakespearean vibe. This doesn't fit anywhere else, so I thought I'd mention it here. Another important reason I think Zestial owns Alastor's soul is the color theory. Zestial has an almost lime green hue, which is rare to see in the series, except in a few instances. Most of the time, we see that green color is either Zestial or Alastor. The most striking example of Alastor having this lime green color is when he makes a deal with Charlie in episode 7, a deal he hopes to use to break free from his leash. The stitches on his lips are the same lime green color as Zestial's. Also, in episode 8, When Alastor sings in the final song, he talks about his deal, and then he's shown standing in this lime green light. Thus, it's evident that Alastor doesn't own his soul, as strange as that may sound. And we know this thanks to his 3 lines. I crave freedom like never before. The constraints of my deal surely have a back door. Finally, Husk's phrase, big talk for someone who's also on a leash. And another reason is the black eye theory. Essentially, it's just stating that if someone has black eyes, it's more like the back part of the eye that's black than the whole eye. It's because they sold their soul. There are several examples of this, such as Moxie, Angel Dust, and of course, Alastor. And here's where my theory comes in. I believe that the owner of Alastor's soul is none other than Lilith. Go to the second image. So we know that Alastor arrived in hell seemingly out of nowhere, and he was already more powerful than most overlords. I think that in exchange for all this power, Alastor made a deal with Lilith, the second most powerful demon in hell. To get this power, in exchange for this, he would have to look after Charlie and help her with her project. Why do I think this? Because in episode 5 he says, "It's time to remind everyone why I'm here." Which is strange, because in the pilot episode, which as I well know is not 100% canon, he says he's there for fun, and nobody really asked him to protect the hotel. In fact, he himself offered to be one of the managers. This would also explain why he looks directly at Lilith in the pilot and half closes his eyes, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a sign of irritation. That's precisely why he can't break free on his own, because Lilith is clearly stronger than him, but this is just a theory. Well, I had to say that it's mostly law, and stay with us. Note, I suppose there is a video on YouTube that also talks about this, but I haven't watched it yet, and I apologize if there are any spelling mistakes. In the show, it is revealed the Alastor soul is owned by a different demon when Husk reveals it. I think Lilith owns his soul because in the first episode, Charlie says she hasn't talked to her mom in 7 years. The song Stayed Gone, that Alastor was gone for 7 years too. I believe she owns his soul and she sent him to help Charlie, and he knows that it works, but has to obey Lilith. He would never reveal that his soul is owned, but to get his revenge on her. He's trying to corrupt Charlie revealed in the song, Ready for This, and he also asked her for that favor. I believe he's going to use it to either one, make Charlie do something to make her more evil or corrupt, or to ask Lilith to give the soul back. There is a theory I have heard about Rosie owning Alastor's soul. So basically, Alastor isn't really the kind to get tricked because he is the trickster, so it would make sense if he did it for an old friend such as Rosie. Plus, if you notice, Alastor is forced to smile, so even if he doesn't feel like smiling, he has to. The only time we see him actually smile is when making the deal with Charlie, which we know because he is so used to smiling, his face breaks. And Rosie smiles all the time, a smile that looks very similar to Alastor's. We also know that Alastor can use people he owns to do whatever he wants, but we never see Alastor being forced to do something. This might be because they are such good friends, and Rosie doesn't want to hurt Alastor in any way. Some people think it's Lilith Tot owns his soul because they have both been gone for 7 years, and after Charlie calls her mom, Alastor happens to be at the door. Though this wouldn't make sense because we now know Lilith has been in heaven the entire time. So there is no way she could give orders to Alastor. Also, she clearly doesn't care about Charlie enough to want Alsator to go and watch other her because she abandoned her and Lucifer. Now there is another theory that it was Eve that owns Alastor's soul, but that doesn't make sense since Eve isn't in hell, she is in heaven. And there is no way that Alastor could possibly be tricked by Eve. He is way too smart for that.